today for the fourth, Patty?
Fourth, yes.
edition of our really exciting series, Unmasking Plastic, that we're doing here at the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, supported by the Swarovski Foundation. Today's topic is called Reduce It. So we'll be talking about different ways that we as individuals can, lower our plastic footprint. We'll be talking about different companies that have different strategies for doing that, from restaurants to businesses to individual lifestyle change. So I'm really excited about this topic because it's really complicated to know sort of what's the best way. There's lots of weird emotions about guilt. Should I buy this thing that comes in this plastic packaging? What if there's no, opportunities around me for zero waste products? As a traveler, I know this can be really difficult to find, always having to have your utensils and reusable cups and things with you. So I'm really excited for today. And I'll pass it over to Patty to get us started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome one more week to our Unmasking Plastics. This week, we are very, very lucky to have these 5 very experienced waste reducers or zero wasters. And I don't think I should say anything more, and I will let them introduce themselves. So please, panelists, introduce you and your organization for 3 or 4 minutes, and maybe we could start with Repurpose with Peter Wang.
Hey guys, this is Peter. I'm one of the co-founders and chief marketing officer at Repurpose Global. So excited to be here today, and this is familiar faces. We were big supporters of SOA and the Alliance, and we were part of the accelerator cohort last year. That was an incredible experience as well. So very excited to sort of have fledged our wins through that. So we'd love to tell a little bit just about what we do and our thesis and how we think about the plastic pollution space as a whole. Quick sort of on a higher level, what is Repurpose? We are essentially the world's first plastic credit platform. We're very much inspired but different than carbon credits. We are helping individuals and businesses, purposeful people and companies all across the world take immediate and affordable and impactful environmental action and go plastic neutral by financing the removal of as much plastic waste from nature as they use in their packaging, in their operations, or in your own lives as an individual. And the problem that we're addressing here fundamentally within the root cause of what we're looking to solve here is really the fact that our world is not dedicating nearly enough cash to solving our humanity's most critical challenges. And one of them being plastic pollution, where you got thousands of companies and innovators all across the world in the developing world and developed world that got great solutions to reduce waste, to reduce, reuse, recycle, and to replace single-use plastic altogether. But they're simply underfunded and too early stage to have a scalable impact. And rhetorically speaking, when more money has gone into WeWork as a company than every recycling startup in the world in history combined, no wonder why we're left so clueless about solving a problem as large as plastic. So we're really seeing this problem of capital and how do we solve that issue in bringing more money to the system. And then on the other side of the equation, there's another gap, a gap of expectations between what consumers, all of us, want today, which is no plastic or zero plastic waste leakage into the environment, in nature. But the unfortunate truth is that companies, the ones that use the most amount of plastic, they're the ones that are dependent on it. And the truth is that for most brands today, your typical food, beverage, health, beauty, fashion, wellness brands, it's impossible for them to get rid of plastic. Because it's such a crucial part of the way that we designed our convenience economy. And that's where we sort of are bridging those pieces of the puzzle together and launch this plastic credit platform and the flagship plastic neutral certification. We're helping these companies as well as individuals do this and go plastic neutral by removing as much plastic from the environment as they're using in their operations. So the way it works is honestly very simple. On average, for every 50 US cents contributed to our platform, we guarantee to fund innovations on the ground across the world to remove or avoid 1 additional kilogram of plastic waste, otherwise landfilled or burned or flushed into our environment. So we're really sort of a financing platform, a two-sided financing platform with on the one side of the equation, you got conscious brands and companies and individuals who are going plastic neutral and offsetting their plastic footprint. On the other side is innovators in the reduce, reuse, and recycling space who need more financing to scale up their environmental impact. And we're now worked with a variety of kind of companies all across the world, from small impact-driven brands to large Fortune 500 companies who worked with us to sort of do this and actually go plastic neutral. And even as an individual consumer, you can also be doing this as well, actually, not just from a brand perspective, you can be partnering with us. We also offer an option for anybody to come to our platform and come to repurpose.global and calculate your unique plastic footprint. We actually developed the world's first interactive plastic footprint calculator. And that's something you guys can definitely use to understand your own footprint as well. So I think I'll just close off there just quickly about how we do this on the ground. We really are
very quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So we do this by partnerships. We work with organizations across the world to remove plastic from the environment, and we're doing this across 3 different continents. I'll stop there, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Peter. Now I would like to invite Magda Cebrian from Zero Waste App. Go Zero Waste App.
Hello, I'm going to share the screen too. Very briefly, can you see my screen right now? No,
not yet.
Right now?
There you go.
Okay, so we are Go Zero Waste. It's a local startup from Barcelona, Spain. Hello to everyone who is connecting right now. And basically what we did is, as consumers, we were trying to reduce our waste. And by doing this, we saw that there's some barriers we can find when we try to do this. And we just try to create a digital tool that helps people who are trying to go zero waste, or at least consume less waste during their daily life with an app. And this is what you can see. This app is actually available in 10 countries right now, including some European countries, the US, Canada, and also Chile and Argentina. And we are just trying to make it available worldwide. And what you find with this app, it's very simple. You have a map, and in this map you can search for local shops where you can find plastic-free or bulk products. So let's say you want to find a shampoo bar, but you don't know where to find it. Of course, you can always buy it online in most countries, but this project is also aimed to support local businesses, because we think it's very important for the local economies. So basically, you have this map where you can search for local shops, and then you can also search for category. Let's say you want to find, I don't know, almonds in bulk. So you search for food. But we have also included things that are not food, like cosmetics and hygiene products, and also secondhand clothing and secondhand objects, or places where you can repair things in order to make the scope wider. And there's also a part that includes personal challenges, because when trying to go zero waste, a part of it is completed by shopping differently, but there's another side where you have to work on some habits. And so we have a part with some challenges divided by parts of the house or things you do in your everyday life. So you can go and check what other things you can do. And basically that's what we do. Apart from the app, we also work with companies, with local governments, and we do talks, workshops, and different kinds of projects to enable this zero waste lifestyle in the different levels of society. And that's more or less what we do, and hopefully we can just answer some questions later on.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Magda. And now I would like to welcome Andrea Lema from Plástico Project, coming from Ecuador.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea, as Patricia said. I'm from Ecuador. I am an environmental activist. I am an environmental entrepreneur as well. And I am the founder of Plástico Project, which I'm going to introduce you now. Okay. So Plástico Project is a local organization fighting against plastic pollution. We work under 3 main pillars, which is education and investigation. The second pillar is advisory on strategic waste management. And the third one is sustainable production and consumption. So we have been working since 2017 at a national level, promoting the implementation of zero waste models. Here are some cleanups that we have done, not only in the beach area, also in lakes and in the mountains, as you can see here. In all these spaces, we have witnessed the same amount of contamination, of pollution, and we have educated people around this topic, because trash or plastic pollution is not something that we talk every day. We have done some brand audits also to put attention on the companies that are actually creating all this pollution in our world. We have campaigned against straws and any type of single-use plastics. And also, since all of this was going on as an organization, I also became zero waste, and I adopted this lifestyle, or this philosophy of life, as I like to call it. And I opened a zero waste store called Suyana, where I try to share all the alternatives that I am encountering day by day. And I like this phrase of changes from the inside to the outside. So for a long time, I was seeing plastic pollution in a very technical way and trying to reach for solutions globally. But when I started to live a zero waste lifestyle, I start to understand that the solution is within us, and it comes from how we live in our everyday basis. So when I start understanding this, I start to see this topic of plastic pollution in a more holistic way, I could say. So trying to first change my feelings towards how I consume anything, and then my mind of how I act, or what I purchase, and then that impact is seen in my surroundings. So that's who I am. We are still working with all my organization and doing all these cleanups, but in the recent year, I have focused a lot on how to develop the mind of people that want to engage on a sustainable lifestyle.
Thank you very much, Andrea, and thank you for sharing also how you're feeling, and not just what is your product. So thank you very much. Now I would like to welcome Orsolya Becsey from Ligeti Bolt.
Hi everyone. So I'm gonna share my screen as well. So so a bit similar to Andrea. So I work in a zero waste shop. I'm not the founder, I'm one of the shop assistants. We are the first zero waste shop in Budapest, which is the capital of Hungary. We are actually the second shop. The first one didn't work for some reason, and then our founder started it small in a smaller village outside of Budapest, but then she moved it to the capital and it really took off. And we have 2 stores right now, and you can see a picture here of how the shop looks like.
Nice.
So we are now with 2 shops, over like 10 people working for our boss, who is a woman who's running this business successfully. And basically we start from the basics. We start from the food and the hygiene products, the everyday items that we use at home. Everything is without packaging or comes in reusable packaging like glass. And just how it works, in case somebody wouldn't be familiar, you just weigh your containers. Whatever you want to bring is fine with us. We're non-judgmental. We have some questions people ask us, very shy, but I only have like a plastic bag, can I use that? And of course you can, whatever you bring is fine. We weigh it and you fill it, and then we just subtract the weight and you pay, and there you go. So that's the idea. And we also have a website or a web shop as well, which we started with the COVID virus. We quickly jumped and opened the store so that people can still get the food. It's in paper bags, which you can reuse or compost, because they're not the ones lined with plastic. They're perfectly compostable as well. So it's not exactly completely zero waste, but it's definitely plastic free. And then we also sell all these zero waste accessories for your home, bottles. We even sell books that educate, masks for the virus as well. So yeah, and we give advice as well in the shop. So if anybody is lost, if it's their first time, trying this out, they can ask us any questions and we help them out. And it's a different shopping experience, which Andrea would know as well. It's not like you run into a big store and you need to rush through. Some people spend half an hour going through the shop and buying things they need. And another important aspect as well, you buy only what you need. So it's reducing overconsumption as well as plastic waste. And one more thing to add is that, especially here in Hungary, we are a small country as well. The fact that our shop exists opened up this gave the bravery for other people as well to open their shop. So now it's not just in the capital, but in other cities outside of the capital where we see more and more shops opening. Plus, our existence makes the existence of the suppliers possible that want to supply without packaging as well. We even help them with the packaging, returnable containers, etc. But it opens up the route for those producers that don't want to use plastic to have somewhere to put their products.
Nice. Thank you very much, Orsolya. Now I would like to welcome you to Jessica Heiges from Dispatch Goods. I hope I pronounced Heiges properly. Otherwise, you can correct me.
that was great. That was impressive, in fact. Hello, everyone. Thank you, SOA, for including us in Panelists. I am thoroughly impressed with all that you are doing. So I'm honored to be a part of this and be here on behalf of Dispatch Goods. So I'll share my screen. Let's see, present. So Dispatch Goods, we are a reverse logistics company. So what the problem is, I'm sure most people are well aware, food takeout and delivery are on the rise. About 90% of these containers, or roughly 50 million daily, are ending up in landfills, oceans, and incinerators. This problem has only been exacerbated by the pandemic. There's been, at least in the US, and sorry, I should note that I'm coming to you from California in the US. In the US, there's been a rise of about 250 to 300% of single-use plastics. So the pandemic has caused an enormous influx. And so this just wanted to quickly contextualize you all on the problem. And so what we aim to do at Dispatch Goods is provide that reusable reverse logistics company service. So we are the entity that will collect, wash, and redistribute reusables. And this is right now focused in food, takeout, and delivery, but our large vision would be that we become kind of that fourth bin. So you have the landfill bin, the recycling bin, the compost bin, and then you have a reusables bin. And so how this works for an individual, you would select the reusable option while ordering from either from a restaurant or from the Dispatch Goods website, or right now we're partnering with DoorDash, which is a food delivery company. And then you receive your food in reusables containers. So you receive it either if you're picking it up for takeout or through the delivery service. And then we communicate with you. Right now it's predominantly via text message because that seems to be everyone's preferred means of communication. And so we communicate with you of when and where to collect the reusable containers later, which we then, kind of going back to the last slide, we then wash them and redistribute them to the participating restaurants. So we're a small team. I'm one of the co-founders, the Chief Sustainability Officer, and I'm also a PhD candidate in waste management at UC Berkeley. So if you have any questions about Dispatch Goods or about kind of the research and state of waste management from kind of the academic perspective, I'd be happy to chime in there. So thank you all. Look forward to getting your questions.
Thank you very much. Really nice work, everyone. I would like to remember that the panel normally is it's prepared to last 1 hour. This is the first time we're having small presentations from the panelists, and we have gone a little bit just out of time. And I have a few questions for each one of you and then some collective ones. And we already received some questions from our participants. So if someone has to leave at the time we indicated on our email, that's okay. Thank you very much. But if you have some more time to keep discussing with us, I would love to keep doing that because we have many, many questions. I would like to start with my first questions, and actually it's a little confession I have, and is that I try to be a zero waster, but I'm very imperfect. As Ron said before, I also travel a lot, I move around a lot, and every time I change country, I have to change radically my behavior, always trying to not use waste, produce waste. I'm wondering that this is also how people's perception is, that the system is constructed in a certain way that doesn't allow us go zero waste, or at least sometimes that's the excuse I put to myself. And I have to also understand and acknowledge that I'm a single European white female, which I have like all the good package there, and I have some sort of economic security. And this, I have also the impression that becoming zero waste may seem at the first sight a bit expensive. And that's why we are going to try to keep all open questions here. But I also wonder that to families it's even harder, right? So I would like to start asking you, what are the biggest myths and misconceptions about plastic waste reduction and zero waste? And what could you say to our participants who want to change their lifestyle, but still feel a bit overwhelmed? Anyone can start answering, but Andrea already have her hand up. So Andrea,
sorry,
please.
I'm gonna jump here because that's a question that I always, it's always around. So what I have understood about zero waste lifestyle especially during this year, is that, and one of the misconceptions is that it's more expensive to be zero waste than to live a plastic full lifestyle. And from my experience, it might seem more expensive at the beginning because you're buying things that maybe cost more, but it also, you can use it for a longer time. So it's not that you are buying something that you will just use once and then throw it away. It's an investment. So I try to see it as it is. So I'm investing in a menstrual cup maybe, and it's more expensive obviously, but it lasts a lot longer. And the other thing is that a lot of people try to look for, especially speaking about food, they try to look in zero waste shops, that these new zero waste shops. But the best way to buy zero waste food is in your local market. You just have to take your bags or your mason jars where you want to put things, and then you don't have to use any bags. So yeah, we have all of these, including my shop that is like really new and very trendy. And we have a lot of alternatives of very high quality, but the best zero waste alternatives are in your local market. So less expensive, zero waste totally. And yeah, that's one of the myths I had to break this year.
Great.
Can
Thank
I
you very
add
much.
something? Sorry, can I
Yeah.
add something to what Andrea said? Because
Oh, of
yeah,
course.
that's I agree that's probably one of the misconceptions, that it's hard and expensive. And since I am behind the till, I see how much people pay, and it's true that the price is always higher when somebody buys the reusable bottles made out of stainless steel or glass. But when somebody only buys the food that they need, it's really not expensive at the end of the day. Sometimes I'm even worried, oh, this is going to be expensive. And then I see the end and it's not. And sometimes even the customer's like, oh, only that much. Okay. Because you only buy what you actually need. You're not buying, 1 kilos of flour when you actually only need 100 grams of flour. And that other 900 will just, obviously flour lasts long, but eventually you have some small animals start living inside, and then you have to throw it away. So you actually even prevent food waste. I know it's a different topic, but just throw it in there. And also, if you don't have the money, you don't have to buy an expensive stainless steel bottle. You buy a juice that is in glass, and then you just keep reusing that glass bottle for months or years. I lost my stainless steel bottle and I didn't buy a new one because I have been just using some glass jar that I found at home. You don't have to buy a keep cup. You can just bring a jar that is big enough for coffee and maybe just put an old stock around that has holes and just cut it, and there you go. So it's also reusing what you already have in your home. Again, you can come in with an old plastic bag. You don't have to buy even the canvas bags. Obviously, they will last longer. So there is a lot of ways to not spend all that extra money. Zero waste shouldn't be about throwing everything away and buying all the fancy bamboo and glass and whatnot. Just use what you have, and then you can then buy the food in bulk in a zero waste shop, or as Andrea said, in your local market. Probably zero waste shop is more just like a one-stop shop, so it makes it very easy for busy people. But if you live next to a market, there you go, you have it.
Thank you. And just building a little bit on this, and because Magda is from Spain and I'm from Spain. Also, I think one of the misconceptions is that people cannot change behavior. And living in Spain, people are quite square-minded in their ways of being. How do you think that this affects or prevents going to a more sustainable or zero waste life?
The question is for me?
Sí.
Okay. I think sharing information on social media has helped a lot in making this contagious in a good sense. Social media has also had the opposite effect with all these ads generating needs for things that we don't need. But what we have seen is that the best thing is example.
Okay.
And even in an individual level with friends and family, but also like influencers that have given a great example on social media and blogs and stuff. But this has to come with a system that makes this possible or easier. And we're pretty aware that this doesn't happen everywhere.
Thank you. Peter, would you like to add something on the misconception question?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I think something that I find quite interesting about misconceptions around plastic waste, particularly, is that a lot of talk is about consumers changing behaviors on an individual level, and I think that's extremely important and a crucial part of becoming zero waste. I also think there needs to be sort of a combination between just internal actions, right? Like in your own life or actions in the supply chain. But I think there's a lot of systemic barriers in the plastic waste space that we are simply not crossing and don't have enough capital to actually cross. And I think that there needs to be that sort of balance, or rather sort of an addition to the definition of what zero waste is not just going zero waste in your own life, but actually advocating in policy in front of your favorite brands and businesses. People actually, I mean, you'd be surprised how far advocacy goes, right? We work with, some 60, 70 companies now, conscious brands all across the world, and they listen to their consumers more than to listen to anybody else at the end of the day. So I think when we think about zero waste, we define that differently than just literally going zero waste yourself, because again, that is only a part of the picture. And we need to think about what else can we do as an individual to support the change of the system overall as well.
Great. In every seminar, we try to make this point, but again, this week I don't have to do it because you did it yourself. We talked last week about politics of plastic pollution. So if someone wants to know more about how the politics of plastic pollution works, it can go to the seminar of last week. It's called Politicize It. And yeah, sorry for doing promotion of our own products, but Jessica, would you like to jump in and contribute to the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So now kind of putting on my research hat versus dispatch per se, Peter, you're spot on that right now we're in so many different ways told that it is the individual's fault. And I think there is a lot that the individual can and needs to do to improve the situation. But also we need to put more and more onus back onto the producers of these single-use plastics. So as Andrea was showing us those brand audits, for instance, we need to speak to those companies and get legislation in place like EPR, or extended producer responsibility, which is putting charges on those companies that are creating these wastes from the get-go, because ultimately waste generation is a systems problem. We're going to need to have these individual innovations and these individual changes of behavior and so forth, but ultimately there's so many other levers that need to change for kind of systemic improvement.
Thank you, Jessica. Now I would like to direct my next question to Andrea, and it's because Andrea and I worked together in a trip we did to Galapagos in an expedition, and we have many conversations around this topic. And just as a continuation of what we have been talking of systemic change being needed, sometimes to me it seems that zero waste is not very inclusive for everyone. And as I said, I remember that in our conversations, you were always emphasizing the privilege that we have to be able just to try and go in zero waste. And I would like to know more about, and you sharing more about what's your experience with the international zero waste movement on social media, or just how you see it versus living in Ecuador and having the reality of living in a Latin American country. And how do you do to hack the system and try to change people's perspectives?
Okay, so that's a very good question because that's very into my reality. And I've seen the zero waste movement grow in a global level, but here especially in Europe and the States, like you can see a lot of alternatives and a lot of people talking about these topics. But here in Latin America, especially in Ecuador, we don't have many people knowing about these things. And what is more intriguing for me is that we are always trying to look for the examples of other places, so Europe especially, but we are a little bit afraid of looking back into our own history and how our ancestors were living before. So I come from an indigenous family, and I have listened to a lot of stories of how my ancestors were living before, and they were completely zero waste. And I know that they were living in another reality and another way of life, but the core how I hack the system, or how I try to introduce the zero waste lifestyle to everyone I work with and all the customers that I have in my shop and all the business who I work with to have a lower impact, is to first understand where all these habits of consumption are coming from. So why am I buying the things that I'm buying? What purpose do they accomplish in my life? Do I really need it, or do I have something near myself that has something that can replace it, or I can borrow for a while? And when we understand these things, so first in our mind, then we can act under it. So in the recent 2 years, zero waste have become a lot more trendy in the city where I live, in Quito. But many people don't understand what it's actually about. So many people come and try to replace all the things that they have in their house with sustainable alternatives. And that's not the way to do it. You have to think what you're doing before doing it. So that's how I hacked, and that's how I try to maybe marketing zero waste in a different way. That is not something from the outside, it's something that comes from the inside of us, and how we are believing and how we are living in this planet. So yeah, hope I answered.
Great, that's perfect, spot on. And you actually gave me the follow-up question to Magda. And with Go Zero Waste app, you address the problems of access and opportunities to achieve zero waste lifestyle. How big of a problem is this? And have you found any major differences in the availability of zero waste? Let's say options in different countries. Your app goes beyond just finding opportunities, right? But also helps people build habits and build a community of practice, as Andrea was commenting before. How important do you think it is networking within the zero waste movement? And you just mentioned a little bit before, so could you please extend on that?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. In fact, we started in Spain, but while we were trying to make the app available in more countries, networking is essential, because we have seen that zero waste movements organized locally, and it makes sense because you shop locally and you interact face-to-face locally. So it has been very important to contact, for example, there's a lot of Facebook groups, Zero Waste Berlin, Zero Waste Quito, Zero Waste whatever. It's like one of the main sources of networking, and it has worked very well. Also, a lot of Instagram accounts, but because we are trying to make the app collaborative, it is essential for us to make it available on social media and let people know that they can add shops, and soon we will add more features so people can rate shops or or suggest products that work for them, because we have seen that the zero waste movement is it's a lot about sharing experiences. You know, I'm looking for a shampoo bar that works for me, and people searching for brands that work for them, and there's a lot of sharing and interacting. So we're just trying to promote it and connect the dots, not only when buying local, but you said it before, the app can also help you find stores when you travel, because maybe when you shop locally, you already know where to shop. But when you go somewhere else, you find yourself not knowing where to find places near you. So in this, it can help as well.
Nice. Nice. Thank you very much. And continuing this communication and communication strategy, we are actually very happy to have you, Orsolya, with us today, because you're actually the first guest living and working in a landlocked country. In your experience, do people in Hungary care about the issues of zero waste or plastic pollution? And yeah, because you're far away from the ocean. How do you see people taking serious this environmental problem, and how does Ligetibok communicate the issue of zero waste to Hungarian people?
Yeah, so I guess some of our customers, the returning customers, the ones that have already dived deep into the subject of zero waste, they know about the pollution reaching the ocean, because we don't have a sea, we don't have an ocean, but we do have rivers, and those rivers flow into seas that go into the ocean. So eventually our plastic waste could potentially reach the ocean as well. Also, I'm actually not entirely sure whether we ever shipped rubbish abroad, maybe to China or to other countries far away, but you know, many countries do, and I have traveled as well, where I've seen waste on beaches that were not necessarily from the place where I was. So even that way, our waste could reach the ocean. And also, when you ship things into our country, before that shipment even reaches your country, the production already created a lot of waste in the place where it was packed and produced. So not directly, but indirectly, you contribute to the waste overseas, you know, in other countries as well. So in that sense, we are very much part of this problem. Whether a lot of Hungarian people think about this more and more, I would say, because more and more zero waste shops are opening. So obviously there's an interest, there is a need, but I'm not sure if everybody connects all the dots. But I think that's the good thing about zero waste. And again, I need to emphasize that it's not about, you know, throwing everything out, buying everything from scratch. Just use what you have. But if you do it, you might arrive at the point where you start questioning a lot of other things besides just waste. You start questioning supply chains, you start questioning, you know, social justice, environmental justice, a lot of other topics you will dive into. And then you probably will come to the conclusion as well that our waste will end up in oceans. And the way we communicate, I mean, I'm not sure, do you mean here like marketing as in communication? Yeah. Because we just try to promote our shop, and then through our shop we would promote these ideas to reduce plastic in your home. So we would have small videos of what you can do with the food products, different like recipes that will show you, like, you can make this dessert all plastic free, or we sell this certain type of products that are zero waste. But if somebody comes into the shop, we are the experts in the shop. Everybody who works in the two stores obviously lives this lifestyle at home as well. So you can bombard us with loads of questions. How do you do this, and what do you suggest? So we are the living, you know, not advertisement, but we are there to help everybody with the questions that they might have, you know, if they're beginners or if they've been shopping like this for a long time.
Great. Good. Thank you for sharing. And Peter, now I would like to ask you, some people and keep going a little bit with this privilege thing that we have mentioned before. Some people find the concept of offsetting to be a bit privileged or an easy way out. Could you tell us how Repurpose ensures that your offsetting approach really leads to a reduction in harmful waste?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the whole sort of idea of offsetting is really that those who are the people who are the principle and the philosophy behind it is that those who are the most responsible should be those who actually take responsibility and stand up for the problem, right? When you see results from our plastic footprint calculator, where the average American, uses about 105 kilograms of plastic per year versus the average Indian, who uses about 10 kilograms, right? So you see where the responsibility lies, and it's really a way for us to enable companies and businesses who have that privilege and have that responsibility as a result to take action on the issue. And I think the hope sort of and I think offsetting has can sometimes have a reputation from carbon. And I think it's very different inherently between what carbon credits are and what plastic credits and plastic offsets are, because carbon credits, if you think about the reality behind the problem, behind the way it works, is that, let's say a company like McKinsey, a big professional services company, is going carbon neutral, and they're doing so by offsetting their employee travel, which is the biggest source of their emissions. And they're offsetting the problem of employee travel with investing to cook stove distribution in rural Africa. I understand that it is a system balance, right? That is, at the end of the day, is achieving carbon neutrality. But how is the cook stove distribution investment really solving the employee travel problem? That's where I think the fundamental dilemma lies in carbon offsets and the bad reputation of that as some sort of greenwashing. But I think within plastic, what we're trying to create is really using plastic credits as a financing instrument for those who are responsible to solve the problem that they're creating in the first place, not necessarily solving another problem in another place, but solving that problem that they're creating in the first place, because waste is a global issue. So as you're mentioning about reduction of harmful plastics, that is actually one of the most primary things that we do at Repurpose, is where we look at plastic. As you all know, everyone here in Panelists probably know, is that plastic is not born equal, right? You got your high value plastic, your PET, your HDP, which is highly recyclable, but then you got most of your plastic waste today, like plastic bags, candy wrappers, takeout boxes, which are not recyclable and are therefore low value plastic. And we're using the plastic credits to subsidize the cost of recovering plastic waste that nobody else would have otherwise picked up. And as a result of that low value is being leaked into the environment. So that's exactly what our principle is trying to use plastic credits to solve for harmful, low value, leakage prone plastic waste types that would have otherwise not been solved by anybody else in the system today. So yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Jessica, last but not least, sorry. We will keep, I will pass to some of the questions we have in our chat after this one. This is the last directed question to someone specific, and we will keep going later on, because today we are running just a little bit out of schedule. But Jessica, you not only help consumers use less waste while getting their favorite takeout, but you also help restaurants reduce their plastic footprint. What are the main sell points for businesses? It is merely enough interested customers? Is it saving money? Or they actually care about using less waste?
That's a fantastic question, and you've nailed it in a lot of the reasons. So first and foremost, we're actually seeing a lot of them being they're coming to us because they recognize their contribution in the overall problem. They are seeing the amount of single-use disposables that they are purchasing, the amount that are being tossed either at their restaurant or going out their doors with their customers. They also are seeing these meals that they are putting so much time and effort to craft and be really nourishing then go into these disposable packaging, and they are very frustrated with that. So one component is, yes, like they're just not happy with their contribution to this overall waste problem. Additionally, there is very large cost savings component, especially when it comes to the waste management side. So not necessarily only in the inventory and purchasing, but also kind of the downstream, the waste. And in the Bay Area, for instance, they're putting on some pretty substantial fees for contamination. So if you're putting the wrong item in the bins, businesses are receiving huge fees because of that. And so they're incentivized in that regard. And then kind of finally, one of the main buckets is exactly what you're saying about consumer demand. So people are demanding this. They're seeking these more sustainable, more local options. And then they're also receiving higher retention from such customers. So there's kind of this loyalty component that, or like a competitive advantage component that they're seeing, especially in a city like San Francisco that just has so many restaurants. They're willing to try different things to appease or to appeal to their customers.
So once again, we can say again that we consumers have the power to change what we want to change as a systemic issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a question from Grace Reed. She did it actually very early into our panel. And this is directed to Peter and Andrea, but of course anyone can answer as well. For Peter and Andrea, do you think that marketing on Instagram and Facebook is the most effective way to shift the global economy towards zero waste? Peter?
Yeah, I think I'm smiling because it's a very difficult question. I think it's hard to answer. I mean, I think Instagram and Facebook and marketing, it's one tactic. It's one way to generate grassroots consumer demand and corporate attention to these problems. And I think it does seem like to me that, a lot of the origins of the zero waste movement really came from Instagram and came from a lot of these things. I do think that, like, with that said, though, I think one caveat is that there's definitely a lot of criticism, right, of the zero waste movement, in a sense that it's only available for privileged people, right? The products are expensive, they're charged at a markup, they're meant for people with a certain socioeconomic class. And I think those are the same kind of people that are active on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And I think there's nothing wrong and entirely great to build that sort of aspirational lifestyle for zero waste, and aspirational lifestyle is achieved with pricing. But I do think that at the end of the spectrum, there is a lot of just issues with access, right, to these products among a lower marginalized populations. We work with a lot of waste workers and waste pickers in India, for example, in other parts of the world, and that medium is not reaching them, right? So I think it's one tactic, but it's not the only end all be all. So
good, thank you, Andrea.
Okay, so yes, Peter said it's a difficult question, but from my point of view, Instagram and Facebook is a tool of communication. So it does help to raise awareness, but it's not the most effective way of a change in a global perspective. So for that change, you need first education, which I think is our best bet right now. So stay informed about these topics and understand how you as an individual are involved in these problems. And then it's also the promotion of political forms or regulations that will actually be the most effective way for an economy towards zero waste.
Yeah. I agree with you, Andrea. And last year I was doing a series of workshops in Africa. I was in Ghana, Namibia, and Morocco. And some of our participants to the workshops were saying that communication is it's what it's needed to different people with different backgrounds, but it's very complicated to them at a governmental level, because there are villages where they didn't even have a radio signal. So Facebook and Instagram, like, forget about those things, and not even radio. So there should be, in my opinion, many different ways of communication adapted to the needs of the communities. And it should be, again, people that wants to be on Instagram, or people from governments or local communities, municipalities. So it should be something, again, once again, it's more like it's systemic. So everyone should be participating in. Sorry, I'm the moderator. I should not give in my opinions. Sorry, but I felt it. I felt it over here. Is there anyone? Oh, we just got a question from George Overlian, and he says the social dilemma, and he provides a link. And he said, we tweet, we like, we share, but what are the consequences of our growing dependence on social media? Discover what's hiding on the other side of yours. What do you think? I think that that might be, if I understood it properly, the responsibility we each one of us have to share which different types of information, and some of them are good, but some of them drive us to myths and misconceptions. Or what do you think about this?
Yeah, so
oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So we're at time. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's here, those attendees and panelists who have to leave at time. If you have any more questions, attendees, send them in. We will get them answered, whether live in the next couple of minutes or via email. This is your last chance to have these wonderful guests answer your questions. But I think my big takeaway from today has definitely been the power of the consumer beyond just changing our own lives. I think Peter was exactly right. Jessica was exactly right. In my own personal experience, there's an app here where you order food called Wolt. It's common in a lot of Eastern Europe in particular. And one of the options they have when you can rate the delivery, but you can also rate the restaurant. And you can actually, which I didn't see before, I've used Uber Eats in the US, I've never seen an option like this, but I really like in Wolt, you can select why you don't give them a 5 stars. And one of the options is packaging. And then you can come and explain to the restaurant, hey, your package, the packaging was terrible and I won't order from them again. But I wrote them that. I gave them a lower review and I said, this is specifically why. You're using too much plastic. It's not necessary. Like, come on, guys, there's paper products. So, that's me, one small step, but I think that's exactly right. We have tremendous powers of consumers. I don't remember who said it, but, one of our strongest ways of voting is with our dollar, right? There's a famous American who said that. So I think that's one thing that I'm leaving here today with. So I just want to give it back to the panelists. If you have less than a minute of something to say to close, a final takeaway, a cheer for those to live a less wasteful life. Thank you. I guess we lost Peter, but if you panelists want to give a little 1 more minute final remarks. Go ahead.
Just remember, please, I just saw that Peter Wang left a very interesting comment in our chat, and they are hiring at least 10 roles across marketing, sales, technology, and impact creation. So if any of our participants is looking for a job, please go to peter@repurpose.global. Also, if someone has to leave, one of the panelists, please, I know that some of you are doing podcasts, some of you have blogs. So if you want to pin anything here for our participants to follow you, please do so right now, because your work is really interesting. I have been researching every single one of you and I'm just amazed. So please share that information with us.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys.
No, of course. course.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And I guess just what I like to tell people is there are a lot of problems in waste, but because of that, there are a lot of possibilities. And so I think instead of getting kind of bogged down in all of the issues at hand, kind of see what you can do both as a consumer as well as a kind of a citizen as well as a professional, and move forth. So thank you all for including us and what everyone is doing. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for coming. Do you have to go? Okay.
I do unfortunately have to go. Yeah.
Good.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you very much, Jessica. Bye.
I just want to say thank you for having me here. I'm trying to use every type of tool of communication that I have on my hand. So I do have a podcast. It's in Spanish though, so it's called Ecológicamente Podcast. And I also have my Instagram where I share a lot of how my daily life as a zero waster is, which you can find me as Soy Andrea Lema. And yeah, thank you for having me here. It was amazing to hear what everyone is doing. I think that every little thing that we do in our daily lives has a huge impact. So for everyone that is listening and is trying to do at least something really small, that will become something magical, and it will be the beginning of a big change. So keep doing it.
Good. Thank you. Magda or Orsolya, would you like to share something?
Just would like to say that in our case, we are willing to connect with zero waste communities worldwide, so we can help local businesses and local groups stay connected and reach more people. So do not hesitate to contact us via website, Instagram, or LinkedIn, whatever it's best for you.
Okay. I volunteer in Zero Waste Stockholm, so I will try to pass them that contact to you.
Great,
thank you.
I see Ron was saying you should open the app in Hungary as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I actually I feel like I'm just repeating Andrea, but it's actually good because we agree on so many things. But yeah, I would just also add, like, it's progress and not perfection. There was this quote circling around the globe that we don't need a handful of people doing perfect zero waste. We need a lot of people doing it imperfectly. So it doesn't matter where you are, and if you have the interest, just start something small and then you'll take it from there, and don't be worried about not being perfect. It's not the goal anyway. It's just the fact that somebody's already doing something is really good. And I would love to just add one more point on the education, like Andrea said as well, and also educating ourselves on the top down part of this. So it's really good that we are all doing something as individuals, but it's only going to be possible to reach something really, really impactful if it's also coming from top down. And that's something we all need to be educated on as well, what that means for each of us in our own countries. So yeah, but thank you so much for having me. It was great.
No, thank you for taking the time to be with our participants. So Ron, I don't know if you would like to add something. I'm not sure if we have any more questions. I had to prepare, but well, I can ask it.
I think that's a really good closing note for today.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you all for joining us, and it's really been a pleasure to have such an international group from India, Ecuador, and Hungary. And Spain. So it's been in the US, so that's been awesome. So thank you to all of our attendees. Next week we'll be talking about circularity. Right, I always mess up the order. Okay.
Yeah, no,
next week we'll be talking about circularity, which we'll be talking in depth about what circularity means. It's more than just recycling. That's our sort of sneak peek about what we're talking about. So we hope that all of you who've joined us today and the previous weeks will continue to join us. Next week we'll have some exciting guests for you as well. So Thank you, everyone, and
thank you very much, everyone.
very wonderful night.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.